Howdy yo, welcome back to the channel. The uncompromising nature of our old world research, the adventures into our past that we take, utilizing the tools and the research that we have at our hands, often leads us to many dead ends. In one aspect of understanding history, these dead ends, or the unexplainable and mysterious, are what we are searching for, something which goes against the narrative grain to open our imaginations to the possibilities of our ancient world. In another aspect, these same dead ends are often the ones that are shuffled under the proverbial rug, as they lack any sort of mainstream scientific explanation and would seemingly create more questions than answers if their discoveries and mysteries were shared with the greater parts of the world. Sticking with that train of thought, for today's video, we will be looking at 6 ancient monoliths, unparalleled in all of the ancient world, mysterious, with a handful of facts given about each one, and yet the narrative agrees that there is no real understanding of how these gigantic stone blocks were quarried, cut, or carried. Interestingly, when it comes to quarried stones or the massive building blocks of ancient mystery societies, we often in many videos and in the comment sections hear claims of new and ingenious theories in which the ancient cultures could have created their massive stone monuments. One of the theories proposed quite often is the theory that the stonework was actually poured into place or molded into place, and I believe this is a brilliant theory which we can see credible evidence of echoed throughout some of the ancient structures of the indigenous cultures found throughout the world. However, the topic of today's video, the massive monoliths of the ancient world, are all agreed upon by today's scholars to be 100% quarried and cut stone, so much so that the largest of these monoliths were actually found still within the quarry, so large that they were seemingly unable to be moved or even buried through the conditions through hundreds of years of dry and eroding desert weather. In today's video, we will be looking at the Baalbek stones, 6 of the world's largest stones ever quarried, worked in Baalbek, ancient Heliopolis, Lebanon. The first of these stones we will be discussing is the Trilithon, also called the Three Stones, the largest remaining stones of the Temple of Jupiter Baal. When we think of ancient times, or possibly with a sense of childlike novelty, think of the ancient gods and their palaces, we think of massive, unparalleled temples built by the gods, for the gods. I've always, from my time of reading the Bible as a child to reading ancient Greek and Roman mythology a few years later, have been able to visualize and conceptualize these massive structures. And from mainstream media, art, and film, and books, we have been indoctrinated with an incredible amount of realistic interpretations of ancient temples. But all art comes from a place of truth. All design comes from an earlier design, an earlier understanding of the patterns which make up all things. To conjure up the ideas of old world Greece and Rome, I believe the truest example, which was referenced by the historians and artists alike, and then presented to the world for centuries as the epitome of these cultures, is the Temple of Jupiter Baal. Just for reference, the Temple of Jupiter Baal is the largest Roman temple in the entire world. At the time it was built, it was also the largest Roman temple in the Roman Empire. Meaning, even with everything that has fallen since the time of the Roman Empire, we still have, partially standing, remains of the largest Roman temple. The temple served as an oracle and was built upon an even more ancient hill, known as Tel Baalbek. However, it is not known how exactly the great temple was built or even when. Work likely began on the Temple of Jupiter Baal in 16 BC, continuing through 60 AD. Quite a unique time period in history, to say the least. The temple was the apex of the western end of the great court of Roman Heliopolis. The columns of the temple were roughly 20 meters or 65.5 feet tall, with a 2.5 meter or over 8 foot diameter, the largest in the classical world. The Trilithon, or 3 stones, are amongst the top 10 heaviest stones ever used in any construction. Each stone is 19 meters or over 62 feet long, 4.2 meters or nearly 14 feet high, and 3.6 meters or nearly 12 feet thick, each weighing roughly 750 to 800 metric tons. There are no official narratives on how these stones were put into place, only that they came from the nearby quarry, which is where the top 3, even larger, said to be hand-cut monolithic stones, were found. First of these, we will look at the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, also called the first monolith. Although it is the smaller of the 3 monoliths found in Baalbek Quarry, which itself is 900 meters or almost 3,000 feet away from the ancient Baalbek location, the Stone of the Pregnant Woman is also the most famous of these monoliths, and possibly the most famous and mysterious ancient monolith in all of the world. This fame can be attributed to the Stone of the Pregnant Woman being in near immaculate condition, almost perfectly preserved, lying at a seemingly impossible angle, jutting out of the earth below, almost entirely uncovered. Scientist Jean-Pierre Adam calculated the stone monolith to be 20.5 meters, or over 67 feet long, 4 meters, or over 13 feet wide at the base, 5 meters, or nearly 16.5 feet wide at the top, and 4.25 meters, or nearly 14 feet high, with a density of 2.7 grams per centimeter cubed, for a total weight of roughly 1,000 metric tons. The name of the Stone of the Pregnant Woman has no official narrative either, only legends, including that a pregnant woman tricked the community into feeding her, claiming she would use her magic to move the stone, only to disappear once she gave birth. Another says that pregnant jinn were forced to cut and carve the massive monolith, while a more popular myth, even to this day, claims that by touching the monolith, you will gain fertility. Found in this same area, in the exact same quarry, only rediscovered in the 1990s, we have the even larger Stone of the South, also known as the second monolith. This stone is still relatively intact. However, it has not been excavated to nearly the same extent as the first monolith. The Stone of the South is absolutely massive, weighing an estimated 1,242 metric tons. The dimensions for the Stone of the South are as follows: roughly 20 meters, or over 65.5 feet long, 4.5 meters, or nearly 15 feet wide, 4.5 meters, or nearly 15 feet high, and with an estimated density the same as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman at 2.7 grams per centimeter cubed. The last stone we are going to discuss is the largest stone ever cut and quarried in the entire recorded history of the world. This stone, discovered in this same quarry, was only found recently in the year 2014. Not much at all has been written or shared with the public about this massive monolith. However, it is known as the Forgotten Stone, or the third monolith. The German archaeological team who discovered the Forgotten Stone give its current estimated measurements at 19.6 meters, or over 64 feet long, 6 meters, or over 19.5 feet wide, and at least 5.5 meters, or over 18 feet tall. However, since the Forgotten Stone is still partially buried, it could be even larger. The same German archaeological team gives a confident estimate of 1,650 metric tons for the weight of the single Forgotten Stone monolith, a single stone quarried and cut by hand in ancient Baalbek, easily making the Forgotten Stone the largest piece of stone anywhere in the world ever quarried. Keep in mind, this was only discovered 8 years ago. It sat, with other monoliths mind you, in a quarry for hundreds of years, and no one knew that it was the largest stone ever quarried. No one knew that right below the surface of the earth laid a piece of human history, which would literally reshape history books. Just imagine the things we will rediscover tomorrow. But with that, I'd like to wrap up the video. Thank you all for being here and for all of the support. A big shout out to Michael Grimm, Logan Roth, and Kush Nagda. Thanks for the donations to the channel. I also want to hear your thoughts about these massive monoliths of Baalbek down below. What do you think about these images? I know we have a lot of theories about the ancient past. Can we see a way where these monoliths could have been quarried by advanced tools? Can we see, possibly, an alternate narrative that we'd like to discuss in the comments? How absolutely beautiful and mental would it be to see the Temple of Jupiter Baal in all of its original glory? Could we imagine even larger structures than this with quarried blocks in ancient times? This is all just food for thought and great for our discussion, so I'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments down below. As always, you can support the channel and you can reach out to me here. I look forward to hearing your thoughts, and we will talk more ancient history on the next video. I look forward to seeing you there.